The second song, Amazing Grace, and I'm going to tell you why I love that song. First and foremost, I walked down the aisle to Amazing Grace when I got married. And the song is always, I never knew the history of the song. It's just a song that when you hear it, it does something to you. You feel it. There's something about Amazing Grace that you feel. And so I thought to myself, let me actually look up this song, Amazing Grace. Where does it come from? Where does this hymn come from? The story of Amazing Grace is it was written by a man named John Newton. He was a British man, and he didn't grow up with any theological basis. He had no religious convictions in his youth. He was sent to the Royal Navy. He was forced to go there in that time. And after a few years, he switched lifestyles and he joined the African slave trade. He used his ship and his vessel to transport slaves from Africa.
Wow.
Okay. And in 1748, there was a storm at sea off the coast of Ireland, which he did not think he was going to survive. And he reached out and he said, God, please have mercy on me. Have mercy on me. And he survived. 6 years later, he gave up seafaring altogether, and he decided to dedicate his life to Christian theological studies. And he was ordained in the Church of England. And he began writing hymns, and he wrote Amazing Grace. He actually wrote it as a song that was supposed to go with the New Year's Day sermon. And the song actually didn't pick up in Britain. It didn't pick up. It never became popular until years later. It did pick up in America. It picked up in America in the South when there was a revival of Protestant religion in the South. And it also picked up amongst the slaves. Suddenly, the slaves began singing this hymn as they would work. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. And when you listen to slaves sing hymns, when you listen to the heart and the soul that was behind them singing the hymns, it's an incredible experience to really process people that were in this horrendous position, singing this hymn that was written by somebody who had a spiritual awakening about Savior, about grace, and about God. And I think the reason that the song means so much to me, and I think to every single person, why you instantly want to sing along, is because we're all the wretched, right? That saved a wretch like me. That is exactly how I feel, the blessing that I feel every single day, that I get to stand on stage and I get to have not just a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance, a fifth chance, because I was a wretch, right? I made terrible decisions when I was young. Kingface talked about the decisions he made when he was young. Brandon talked about him being arrested. Brandon Tatum, right? All of us led these paths. We're down these paths that were so meaningless and so harmful and so hateful. And then we were saved.
I think I want to listen to a little bit more before I get totally convicted, but I've been hit. Like she hit me a couple of times. I don't know. I think she's speaking of other people who had their opportunity to speak at this the Blacksit. What's this the Blacksit platform or wherever they are. I don't know where they are, but everyone was just giving their testimonies as to how far they've come and why they feel so blessed to be able to stand in front of people and have their own microphone, their own platform, and not be where they probably should be if it was not for God's grace and mercy. I wish I had that type of will to go after information the way Candace did when she heard that song. That song to me was one of the songs that was honestly sang too much in church. My wife got me into church. My wife got me into a lot of positive things. Yeah. My wife, that's my lady, man. But I've come a long way. And I thank God for his grace and for his mercy. I'm not all religious-y the way that I used to be, but I definitely have my own relationship with God, because I do consider God to be my father, my spiritual advisor. He's extremely patient with me. He understands me more than anyone else. And I too am much further than my sins say I should be. I just say it like that. So yeah, okay. Commence.
And so harmful and so hateful. And then we were saved. I was saved simply by conservative principles, right? That is the chance that God gave me. Conservative principles. Go back to your root, figure out who you are, right? And I realized that while I was living my life liberal, while I was going around thinking that I was free because I was following no rules, right? Liberalism and leftism. There are no rules in life. You should do and say and be whatever you want to be and not be respectful to other people. Don't acknowledge truths. You can live in lies, because you can lie and lie and lie. That's a form of freedom. And I lived that way. I lived that way for 20-some years, until that thing that was supposed to feel like freedom started to feel like bondage. I realized nothing in my life was real. Nothing that I had was tangible or real. Not my relationships, not my friendships.
Wow.
Nothing was real, because we were all building ourselves upon a lie, a foundational lie.
And how does that feel when, I wish I could ask Candace that right now, when you realized that everything was not, was disingenuous, was disingenuine, whichever one of those are a word. But you know what I'm talking about. When you realize that and you start to make your moves toward being more conservative, or taking more responsibility over your life, taking more accountability over your life. How was it when your relationships with people in your community start to break apart? Because that's exactly what happens. Because whenever you start to do one thing to better yourself, it's almost an indictment on your neighbors and your friends and your family members, who believe you were doing the same thing that you were doing the same thing we're doing now. You were acting the same way we act now, but now you decide to do something different and act another way. Then clearly we must be doing something wrong. And if we are doing something wrong, then that to us mean you think you better than us. That's how it comes off. You think you better than us, huh? Take your bougie ASS over there then. Don't say nothing to me. You want to be like them? Go ahead and be like them. I feel that. So yeah, okay. And it's not even about being conservative. Just that point when you realize that it's bigger than just you. It's bigger than just you. Like, your responsibility does not stop at just yourself. Everything you do will affect someone else in some way, shape, or fashion. It will. And then when you realize that, you start to make certain moves, and you start to pivot, and you start to see positivity in your life. You start to see growth. You start to see increase, because that's something that God promised you. But you also start to see hatred. You start to see more darkness. But as God said, now that you are the light, you're good. He's going to send you into the darkness so that you can lift them up. So people that walk into that fight fearlessly, knowing that they're about to have to do God's work, as long as they realize that they are armed heavily with every single tool that God has given them. And his grace and mercy is definitely a part of that armor. This is dope so far. Okay, let me just go.
When I
I'm not
lost
gonna
my
keep stopping
grandmother
it,
in
guys.
2013, that was the beginning of a turning point for me. My grandmother was really the only mother that I knew. And she raised all of us in the way that grandparents are able to raise, it seems like, everyone in the family, cousins, brothers, sisters. We all felt that we were raised by my grandmother and my grandfather. And when my grandmother was taken into the hospital in 2013, they thought she'd be out in 48 hours. But I got on a plane anyway, and I went down to Fayetteville, North Carolina to see her. And I had this big, expensive bag. I had just started working in private equity. And as soon as I got a check, even though I was some $100,000 in student loan debt, I went and bought a fancy bag so I could fit in and look cool. And my grandmother, she must have known that she wasn't going to make it out of the hospital because she took time to speak to me and each of my siblings and all of my cousins individually. And the last word she said to me, the first thing she said to me was, "Candace, you need to forgive your mother." It's random. We weren't talking about my mother. We weren't talking about my upbringing. I had a tough one. And then she said, "I worry about you."
I'm not going to touch that one, but that one hit me too. God dang it. God wanted me to check this out. Wanted me to check this out. What should I receive from this? What should I receive from this? God wanted me to check this out. I'm here. You know, I'm opening myself up to receive these hits. I don't mind being convicted because then I do something about it. But that's the thing. Once I hear it clearly, her grandmother told her, "I need you to forgive your mother." That wisdom. Oh my gosh. And I'm saying that, guys, because I'm in the same boat. My mom and I, our relationship is extremely strained. And it's because I can only accept my part in this. I'm very, very, very unforgiving and stubborn. But I'm extremely respectful. But I know there's work to be done.
My upbringing, I had a tough one. And then she said, "I worry about you. I worry about you in New York City. I worry about you because you're losing yourself." And I laughed it off, and I said, "Grandma, it's fine." I got on a plane. In 24 hours, she was dead. So it was it was a moment for me because I suddenly started thinking about my grandmother and reflecting upon the upbringing and reflecting upon the ways that they had raised me, the things that I had run from. Growing up in my grandfather's home, there were nothing but rules. We had to be sitting around the table, reading the Bible before we head to school. He would ask us questions. He would not serve us a plate in the morning. He would ignore us if we didn't say good morning. It was just a sign of respect. You don't come down here, you don't sit down and ask for food until you greet the person that is serving you and you say good morning. He ran a tight ship, and that ship was filled with love, a lot of rules, but more love. And it shaped me and my sisters when we were young. He planted the seeds of conservatism that I would be able to harvest later. My grandmother and my grandfather believed in the family structure. My grandmother grew up in Tortola, British Virgin Island. She had a lot of issues health-wise, and because she was considered crippled, because she walked a little funny, she was treated horribly, had a horrible upbringing, a horrible life.
Man.
My grandfather grew up in a segregated South. So he had to work from the time he was 5 years old, laying out tobacco to dry in Fayetteville, North Carolina, picking cotton in Fayetteville, North Carolina. 5 years old. Wrap your head around that. 5 years old, getting up before the crack of dawn. Otherwise, the Carolina sun is too hot. So you have to get up and you have to do man work, right? At 5 a.m. in the morning.
I couldn't imagine doing that. I couldn't imagine doing that type of man work as a man, let alone a daggone 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old. Yeah, see, we all got our testimonies, man. We all got our testimonies, and we can all go back to a dark moment that really affected us, that we still deal with this day. Matter of fact, it's probably our biggest trauma ever. But then it's always someone else with bigger hardships. And they never even showed it to us. They went through life with a smile on their faces. Because the only person they cried to was God. Wow. Wow. See, I knew it, Candace. You giving speeches like this is why people try to protest your daggone speeches and your debates and your talks. Because what you're talking about right now is tearing us apart. People are something else, man.
Crack of dawn. Otherwise, the Carolina sun is too hot. So you have to get up and you have to do man work, right? At 5 a.m. in the morning, crack of dawn. And my grandfather did it. He never complained. And what was remarkable is
Never complained.
never once in our household when he would share the stories of his upbringing, never once when my grandmother would share the stories of their upbringing did they ever complain. It was just what happened. My grandfather, despite surviving attacks from the Ku Klux Klan, never once in our household said a bad word about white people. It never happened, right? My grandfather would...
That's something else, because people who have never even seen a KKK member, I'm talking about never even seen a hood, probably never seen a white sheet ever in their life. Every single opportunity that they get, you know it's the white man, right? You know it's white man, right? Them saltines, them, you know what I mean? Chill, B.
would just say it was a different time. In fact, regarding the Ku Klux Klan, he talks about that story with such tremendous pride. He says, the KKK would come around and spray bullets in our home, and my daddy would grab the shotgun and shoot back at them boys, right? Boys, calling these terrorists boys,
back at
right?
them boys.
That strength, that victor mentality that my grandparents had, never complaining. It's so special. It's so special. It's the same victor mentality when you look just a few generations ago and you look at the boys whose average age was 22 years old that left their home country to go land on the beaches of Normandy, right? Look at the images of those boys in World War II. The courage. Watch the documentaries about the conversations that were had. They knew they were going to die. They were 20 years old. People that were 18, flying and doing all of these things. Pilots that knew they didn't have fuel, that were flying towards Midway, and knew that if they made the decision to turn around, they weren't going to make it back. The courage, the strength, the way that these people fought and the way that these people lived, the principles that they had, the values that they had, those are the things that made America great, that made America unique.
Yep. What y'all thought about that, man? The young sister, she gets you to thinking, she gets you to talking. And for all those people who are watching this who might not agree with her, do you at least agree with the fact that she does start a conversation that's worth having, that could possibly create a bridge from where you are to where she is, or from where she is to where you are? Because essentially that's all this is about. That's all this is about. It's not about tearing anyone apart for having certain ideologies. It's not about pissing on someone's political affiliation. It's not about tearing someone down for just simply not wanting to be a part of all of this, togetherness or unity or freedom fighting, loving the country or any of that. Just let's just agree that this is the place where stuff gets done. You ever heard somebody say, "I wish I was a fly on the wall"? That's one of the greatest things about the internet. It allows us to be a fly on the wall. So what that essentially does is it removes all ignorance. Like, it removes all excuses, because the information is here. All you need is to open your eyes and receive it. Open your ears and receive it. Open your heart and receive it. And things will get better after that. Per usual, man, I want to hear what y'all got to say about this in the comments below. And if you have yet to hit that subscribe button or the new super thanks button, thank y'all so much for all the people who have been hitting that button. please make sure you do so on your way out the door. Once again, guys, I'm Van, and now we are all the LFR family, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video, hopefully inside the Patreon as well. And thank you so much for the 350,000 LFR family members we have with us right now. We are 350,000 strong at the moment. It feels phenomenal. I mean, probably only 20,000 of those supporters watch the channel now, but I'm still appreciative. I'll see y'all next time. I love y'all.